This is a JTP Audio podcast.
Welcome to Flight in a Pint, podcast about beer tourism. My name is Jason Portizo.
I'm Nathan Dickinson.
I'm Walter Wilson.
We are here, episode 1, season 1, part 1. The first thing we're ever doing. We're over here at Battle River Brewery in Toms River, New Jersey. I've got Gary here. I've got Ian here. What's going on, guys?
How are you today?
What's going on?
We're doing fine. How's things?
Things are peachy.
Things are going well. We appreciate that you guys are out here joining us at Battle River tonight.
Hey, we're brand new, just like you.
Yep. This is our fourth week in business.
Definitely exciting to have a new brewery as our first start.
Well, we appreciate the support.
So we were here a couple weeks ago at your soft opening. Tell me how things have been going since then. You said this is your fourth week.
It is. So, we couldn't ask for better weather, better patronage. The support from the community has really been great. So I think we're over the moon with what we've had so far.
That's great. You guys really have a really nice location here, downtown Toms River, right on Main Street. It's a really nice, it's a little bit of a small area to brew beer in, but it's really set up well.
Yeah, the building is not what you would consider optimum for a brewery, but it took a little bit of surgery to get the stuff in here. But
It's a little thin and long.
Yeah.
The nostalgia kind of plays along with the tap room ambiance and everything. So it's nice.
Yeah, we really wanted to be downtown. We found this building. We wanted to be part of the revitalization and the rehabilitation of the downtown area. I grew up in Toms River. Ian also.
Yeah, I actually grew up
right down the street.
3 blocks down that way.
So we thought being in downtown Toms River can bring back what it was. And, we thought a brewery would be a big part of what they're trying to do down here.
So when you say what it was, like what kind of era do you... What was the peak era? What was golden age downtown Toms River?
Oh, man. I mean, just going off of historical documents and stuff, I believe this was the only what you would consider like a shop or just in general like a little town. This is where people used to come to get their clothing, their goods, you name it. They had department stores.
I mean, yeah, if you look at some of the old historical books that we've talked, I mean, there was buggies lined up on Main Street.
Yeah, you're going back to 1850s,
yeah, but
stuff like that.
In the more recent time, I mean, you can look back at the 80s, and this was, the popular area. Like Ian said, there was a grocery store, a clothing store, a shoe store, all those things combined in this downtown, and this is where the place where people gathered, where people had festivals, where people, came to be.
It's also nice. Recently, they've been closing down Washington Street and having events go on down there. Does that help boost the business, do you think?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. So the downtown business improvement district has really done a good job of trying to help the businesses down here, especially in light of what we're going through here in the country and the state of New Jersey. So they do close down Washington Street on both Friday and Saturday nights from 4 to 11, and they've allowed the vendors, the local food restaurants, to put tables out in the street, serve food out there, and just allow music and everyone to have a little bit of a party atmosphere to get out and be outside, so that it doesn't affect any of the restrictions that we've had to deal with only a little bit of easing in the last week.
Yeah, really recent easing. We weren't able to do this episode if we tried a couple weeks ago. One big thing that I really wanted to ask you guys about was opening a brewery in the middle of COVID restrictions and people not wanting to leave their house for fear and all sorts of reasons. Besides the very obvious hurdles that you had to go through for that, what's that been like?
I don't think we planned on opening in the middle of a pandemic, right? I mean, I think our timeline was a little bit before, but there were some hiccups, with the town and with construction, and then when COVID hit, it put us back when the governor restricted non-essential construction about 6 to 8 weeks. But I think we've done the best that we can in light of the situation, and certainly the town closing down the street has helped a lot. I don't think we would be as successful in our opening if that wasn't happening. It provided customers and the people of the area a place to go and place to feel a little bit normal during this time.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we hit every bump in the road along the way, but we've been building this for about 2 years, and like we never saw it coming. But I mean, we catch a little bit of delays here and there, but the COVID thing really put a damper on it. Like you said, with construction, even just with like deliveries and freight and equipment and you name it, it's.
Yeah, I mean the supply chain pretty much in every industry was shut down. So, like Ian said, there's certainly been a lot of hiccups, but over 100-year-old building, and we had to do what we had to do to get it up to code and the way that we thought can function as a brewery the best it can in this building.
It looks beautiful. I really like the equipment inside in the tap room. We're right next to the tap room.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, it's like a centerpiece, a little conversation piece.
It's nice. This is actually the first time we've been open and caught a brew day in the midst of it. I knew it was going to happen eventually, but within the first month, we got tied up today with some kegging and some cleaning, and right now the consumption rate from us being new, the consumption rate gallon wise is pretty intense. Not saying I'm not ranting and raving about my product, even though I do love it. But you go have that new brewery fad, the new brewery smell, and everyone coming in here to drink. I come back in the morning and there's a pile of empty kegs on the floor. So I mean, it's a good problem to have, but we're keeping up with the consumption is tasking.
Yeah, so I mean, we put out a pretty good schedule, and Ian's been able to back up all the beers that have started to go low or kicked. So.
I think more than even the aesthetic of having the brew house in the tasting room is the smell of freshly brewed beer. It makes my day. It's like oatmeals and warm cookies. Yeah. I love it so much.
Well, you could get a candle.
I think what's her name? Gwyneth Paltrow. She might make those. But it's I'm not knocking any other establishment or building. For the ones that do have enclosed brew house areas, it's obviously way more efficient and effective for them on a production level because the workload does not get impeded by the tap room. But at the same time, having the brew house in the tap room, when you come here to drink, it is you're in the brewery. It's not like the brewery is behind here. And like I said, I'm not knocking it. I mean, but this is what I prefer. I prefer to you be around the equipment.
Yeah, I mean, it's an experience, right? I mean, people want to come and experience the whole part of the brewery. So that's kind of why we decided to put the brew house inside the tap room.
It's a nice reminder of exactly what you're getting. Like you're not getting something that's mass produced. You're not getting something that was shipped over from states or countries away. It's made 20 feet away from you when you're drinking at the bar.
You can feel like you're a part of it too. Instead of just drinking the beer, you're a part of the whole experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what we've tried to focus on, and certainly, like Ian said, maybe not ideal, but at some days with the tap room open, they're going to get the full experience. He's going to be working, he's going to be brewing beer, and they're going to get the full experience of seeing him clean up, move it around, smell it, everything that goes along with what he does during the day.
Yeah, I can get beer in a lot of places. I can't get an experience like that, even in most breweries. That's awesome that you guys not only provide that but embrace it. That's really cool. I think we're ready to get into our pint here.
Oh yeah.
So what do we have in front of us?
So this is our Huddy's Revenge Hefeweizen. This is something that I've made when I was brewing at home on my pilot batch system, messing around with it because I liked Hefes so much when I lived in Germany. They were so abundant and they're extremely hard to get here, especially some of the German brands. They do have some that you can get, and they're okay. They're a little bit more on the processed, on the lighter side. They call them like Hefe. They'll have them like Crystal Weizens or what have you. There's nothing better than a fresh Hefe that's what I would consider to be made correctly and then true to style. Even with BJCP guidelines, like if this beer was to enter a competition, it would meet all criteria. It's pushing the threshold on the alcohol a little bit because I think this is 6%. And I think the threshold on the category is maybe like 5.5 or 5.8 or something like that. Regardless, but it's still tasty. It's still brewed with German ingredients. It's brewed with the correct German yeast. It's the yeast is pitched the right way. It's fermented at the right temperature, the whole 9 yards. So it's not just like one thing. It's not like I'm gonna put 2 and 2 together and this makes this. It's not how it works. There's multiple steps to create this beer. Some people even go as far as decoction mashing with unmalted grain, and that's on a little bit of a nerdier end. I don't have time for that. The maltsters do all the hard work.
No, we are pro nerd here. So
okay, all right, I dig it. So the maltsters do very, very hard work at malting the grains. So why would I take that away from, they've already done the hard work for me, so I use malted grains. I'm not taking it away from anyone who doesn't uses unmalted grains, but I don't have that much time in a day. And the product still comes out decent at the end. So, if you want to dig in, let me know what you...
Let's do this. Nathan, you drank yours already?
You know it, buddy.
Tastes very good. I seem to taste like a little bit of like a bubble gum type flavor in there.
You are. That is the yeast that's in there. It's going to be a little bit more banana bubble gum type. So there's different species of yeast, and this one in particular, when it's stressed out, will produce those flavors, such as big banana flavors, a little bit of bubble gum, maybe even a touch of clove. You'll get that, and these are German strain yeasts that probably border around the same as like Belgian yeasts and stuff. They're close in category, but a little bit different. But that how that tastes like that, if you go to Germany and actually go to like legit, real old school breweries who follow the German purity law on how you make beer, that's how it tastes. And like, even have you seen not to plug someone else's product, but you know how Schafferhofer, that company, has a grapefruit Hefeweizen, right? And it's not bad. It's a summer drink. It's almost like a shandy. But Schafferhofer has a regular Hefeweizen. It's a brown bottle with an orange label, and it's amazing. And you cannot get it here. I mean, you could probably get it somewhere, but I've never found it. But that was like one of the first beers I was drinking. When I went to Germany, I was 19 years old, which is 21 there. So that was fun.
Yeah, it looks like something to keep an eye out for.
Well, we'll try to take a trip there once we hit our Patreon. Once we hit our Patreon goals, we'll take a trip over.
Well, it was just not to keep going on this, but it was something to bounce the flavor off of. So if I'm making something, I know how something already tastes because I've had it for years, so I know how it's supposed to taste. So if it doesn't taste right, and everyone's got their own spin off on all the product. Like I said, I'm not knocking it. This beer in particular, I do like true to style, just because it's a little nostalgic for me.
Well, I mean, it's delicious, and it does have a ton of that really good banana bread flavor to it that I love so much.
It wasn't until you mentioned it, but now I'm getting like almost a strong like banana, like the Runts candy banana, like that candy banana. It's awesome. It's a cool it hits like the middle of the tongue. Yeah. Not like the tart in the front of the tongue, and not like the heavy in the back. It's like
right, yeah.
It's that section of the tongue that doesn't get activated too often. Yeah. It's awesome.
There's no banana in it. There's no bread in it. There's nothing like that. It's just what it does when it ferments.
All right, so a couple of questions that we'll ask more like personal preference. Is there any brewery that you might want to do a collaboration with?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd love to collab with them all. I mean, I'm friends with most of the. Probably almost all of them around here, even in Ocean County, some in Delaware. I kind of nerd out when it comes with the brewery stuff, so I'm friends with a lot of the people. They've helped me out with a lot of knowledge through all this stuff. So, I mean, I would love to collab with, Jason's a friend of mine from Icarus. I'd love to collab with Icarus, Vieras.
He told me to say hello.
He's a nice guy. Tell him I said hey.
We're doing episode 2 with him this weekend.
Yeah, he's good people. Rob Zarco from Ship Bottom. I would love to do a podcast. Do a collaboration with him. My wife actually works there. She's a beer tender she's been working there for quite some time. But I really don't have any limitations on collaborations. I mean, I'm kind of OCD about beer getting made So one of those things that kind of happens with collaborations is you get too many chefs in the kitchen or too many hands in the pots. I haven't done it yet, so I don't know, but I get a little worried about that sometimes. You had something good, and who knows, maybe they had it good to begin with and I messed it up, or vice versa. So I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah, or even if you're on a different system,
That is true. I mean, where it gets brewed is also, every brewery has their taste. You notice if you go to someone's brewery, every one of their beers almost has like that almost like hint of something, and it's
like a distinctive taste.
Yes,
right.
yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I mean, like you had said, I think, open to everyone, the whole community. What I've learned, this community is really supportive of each other. They want the whole business to grow, not just their own. So that's one thing I've learned. Ian has a lot of connections, through, brewing for such a long time. I'm relatively new to the business, as well as, my partners. But, we learned real quick that, the whole industry is supportive of everyone, and they want everyone to succeed. They want the whole pie to grow, not just their pie.
Yeah, I've noticed that where it's there's a competitive factor to it, but it's a supportive competition. Yeah. Where the competition is there to more keep everybody in check and make sure everyone's product is great. So I've noticed that a lot.
Yeah, I got to give a quick shout out too, because I didn't want to skip it and have him hear this and have him yell at me. But I have very good friends of mine that have helped me out through all of this way from the beginning. Was Don and Todd from Manafurkin. I've always wanted to.
You were just there.
Yeah, they're good people, man. They're
Real
very
good
good friends of
people,
mine, man. So I didn't want to leave him out there if I skipped him on a collaboration shout out.
Hopefully by the time we launch, by the time this episode gets released, hopefully we'll have an episode with them also. We've been in talk with them. I love questions like this. So, what is your favorite? You can interpret this as either a food to pair with beer or your favorite drunk food.
I don't mind. I think it was Dogfish Head. It was probably Dogfish Head's 60-minute. It's probably Dogfish Head's 60-minute or Allagash White with some sushi.
That's a good pair.
Yeah. That's a good lunch. That's a good lunch special.
Like some Allagash White with an eel roll.
Oh,
You just hit all of my flavor buttons, dude.
Yeah, that's a good. I think that was my lunch for quite some time. Was Allagash White and some mixed up spicy rolls and everything.
Yeah, we gotta make a stop on the way home, guys. Go hit some Uminoya.
Oh yeah. So, what would you guys say is your favorite styles of beer?
The reason this had to be brewed, like I think probably number 2 or number 3. This is Gary's favorite.
Yeah, so Hefeweizen my favorite. When we were interviewing brewers and Ian made the Hefe, I was like, oh, that's it. The taste is great, the style is perfect, and let's go.
My favorite styles to brew. I mean, I do like brewing some of the more complex, tricky IPAs, just because, first of all, it's a pain in the ass to make them because there's so many more steps as opposed to if you just made something clean, something with mild, not really too complex grist bill with just a few hops in it. Nothing too crazy. Like the Pilsner. I love the Pilsner. Pilsner is super easy to make. Takes a super, super long time to ferment. Unfortunately, I wound up having to do like 2 different lagers back to back just because of the volume we're making. We're running out before it can get kegged up again. But predominantly my favorite would have to be making some of the IPAs, making Belgian beers. Belgian beers are my favorite. I haven't made any yet. I do have a Belgian wit on there. It kind of got away from me a little bit in cellaring. It didn't really turn out how I wanted to. It's still pretty decent. But like I said, Belgian wits are really good. Belgian triples. Not a big fan of pumpkin beers, but I actually do make a pretty good pumpkin beer. I might have like a sip of it, and I'm good for the year. So
That's exactly where I'm at with pumpkin beers.
Yeah.
I love stuff like the pumpkin. It's like I have one. It's like I'll see you next October.
Yes, barrel aged beers are like they're up there with my favorite. One of my favorite beers of all time is Allagash Kiryu. That is like if I was to pick a beer, like just like hey, you can only have one. That's the one I'm grabbing right there on the shelf, dude. I love that style of beer. I don't know. It's kind of hard to pick one because they all have their own uniqueness that you have to. It has to be rounded out in one way or another, so you can't just slap this on this and call it good. Some you can, but there's always a trick where either the hops or the malt or the yeast will play off of one another and it doesn't work if you did something else. It only works like kind of like the way you're doing it. And because if you did something else, it would be a completely different beer.
So not to, if you don't want to give it away, that's fine. But since we're talking about the season, do you guys have like an Oktoberfest you're planning on doing, or a German Marzen, or you guys going to give us some really good dark amber, tasty beer?
Yeah, sure. Nothing too secretive. Like I said, I like to spice some things up and keep the customers happy. So we do have a harvest beer that's in the fermenter right now from my friend RJ. Shout out to RJ. He has a little personal hop farm in Ocean County, not too far from here. And my buddy normally gets some hops from him. I got some hops from him. So when you do a wet hop beer, it can only happen once a year, and you have 24 hours from bind to kettle. So he'll go pick the hops, and I think he came in with a decent bit of poundage on hops. And so the hops have to go into whirlpool in the kettle, but they're not processed, they're not dried, they're not pelletized. They're, everyone's like, oh, I use whole cone hops. Well, yeah, you use a whole cone hops that have been dried for a year in a bag. That's fine. It's nothing wrong with that. But the flavor characteristic from a wet hop beer, it's definitely unique, and you can only do it once a year. So that's a little harvest beer. We do have, like I said, the pumpkin beer that's coming out that I'm making. I do a nice little twist on that. That'll be a heavy hitter, ABV wise. We got some more, like a Thanksgiving harvest type
we'll
of
have
beer.
Some aged stuff coming out. So
we have the barrel program. We're trying to get on its feet right now. So that'll be good. We'll definitely. Like I said, I'm a nerd with this kind of stuff, and I like doing it. I spend a lot of time here, more than my wife. My wife gets mad at me. I spend way too much time here in the cellar than I do at home.
I'm the same. I mean, I could sit here forever and just listen to it and just smell hops and be around it all day.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
So one of my favorite questions is, obviously you are very knowledgeable, and you said it yourself, very nerdy about beer. What are your hobbies outside of beer?
Oh man, so this actually was my hobby, which took up. I wouldn't really consider it my hobby. I took it in as an interest because I wanted to do this. I didn't start homebrewing to homebrew as a hobby, if that makes sense. I started homebrewing to do this professionally.
Gary, what about you?
So I also own a CrossFit gym, so I work out a lot. I play golf, just anything outside the beach, pool, things like that.
But to answer your question, I used to have hobbies. I don't really have too many hobbies. I used to surf, fish, ride motorcycles. I'm selling a motorcycle, and I used to work on my house a lot, and that's few and far between right now.
Ian's very handy. He did a lot of the work in here himself.
Yeah, they say when you do what you love, you don't work a day, but we all know that's not true. You end up just doing what you love until you die.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to Stress's point, all the black walnut capping around the place was a tree in my backyard.
Wow.
Like the back bar, everything, the concrete, all the wood.
I think that's in the back of this camera if you're watching this on YouTube and not just listening to the podcast. That's up behind us over here.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of love in the labor of love.
You're good. I like that where it's like it's an active brewery right now. There's people here. You can hear them in the background. This is cool. We are truly on site here,
and that is really cool. I love the DIY aesthetic. I love it when you're putting stuff together by yourself and you're really owning everything nuts to bolts from the ground up. It makes not just a business, but it makes it feel more like a fest hall. It makes it feel more like a gathering place where people can come and not just have a beer, but also share ideas and a little bit of food and have community. And that's great. I love it.
Yeah, that was kind of the mission of this whole thing. I mean, if you look on our website, the mission and values that we set out when we started this company was kind of just have a place where everyone, can gather, come for good drink, good people, and good times. That's really it.
It's very different from a bar. A lot of breweries in general normally catch a lot of flack, especially from the restaurant or bar industry. But if you were to actually gauge the ambiance of the crowd or the demographic, it's more like a backyard barbecue or hanging out in someone's garage. It's not a bar where there's people getting rowdy and there's that guy who invited this guy. Like there are things here and there. Like you will get someone that's probably a little under the weather that has to Uber out of here and everything, but it's not. It's a completely different atmosphere from a bar. Even though some might consider it the same because they have taps and that's how breweries get a lot of flack. But it's the atmosphere is completely different. It's everyone's drinking or tasting some beer, but it's not the same. People are in here taking shots, everything like that. It's different.
Maybe get into these flights here.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It's warming up on you.
I have been waiting diligently and patiently.
But yeah, let's get into this flight. So what do we have here? What's in the number one slot?
Oh, you're gonna spin that one, spin that guy around.
Yeah. I'm just gonna take it from this side.
All right.
So that's our full day session ale. Ian want to talk about that beer a little bit?
Yeah, sure. We call it that's a full day session ale. It was like a summer ale. We were bouncing around. That was the very first beer that we made, and that is what I basically call sesh. That's the name for that, and that is going to be a lighter style ale. It's not going to be too hoppy like an IPA. More on the realms of a shandy, but not super sweet. But it's going to have a big tangerine punch to it. It comes in at 5.5%, and you could probably drink about a case of them. So they're nice.
Yeah,
but that was the very first beer. This is the second batch of it that came out. The first batch got a little messed up. I had some incorrect things that were sent to me from manufacturers that labeled them wrong, and I was mad as a hornet. But it's the beer, I didn't even want to talk about it, but it was one of our better selling beers, and I was pissed about it.
Still, that is delicious, crisp. You do get a little bit even of the hop sting on the back end, but a lot of that citrus flavor coming through, and definitely a crusher. You can crush this all day.
Yeah,
long.
I got that tangerine, and like I said, like a little shandy-ish, but not quite as lemonade-y as a shandy can get.
Some things are a little hard to balance too, especially with purees with citrus, because the rind itself or the zest will actually carry an IBU factor. So when you're playing with things like that, you have to keep in mind how you're hopping it, because if the hops add bitterness, your citrus is also going to add bitterness too. So you can run the chance of over bittering a beer if you're not paying attention to what you're going for. So
and hence the name Full Day Session, because you can just drink them all day long.
She's good. I like it.
I'm about to. That's great.
And this has what is that? Mandarina hops in it.
It does. It has Mandarina Bavaria and Citra.
It's one of my favorite hops, the Mandarina Bavaria.
Yeah, she's good. It's noble hops are always a fit. Like I said, going back to Germany, noble hops are a staple here.
I don't really have anything else to add to this. This is just again, like you said, like I can drink a whole case of this. Take home a crowler, and that's the serving size is the crowler.
I was actually looking into a company that makes because everyone has koozies in their house, and like I have no use for a koozie because I'm 235 pounds, and I'll go through a 12-ounce can probably quicker than I could put the koozie on or take the koozie off. We were looking at a company that makes koozies for crowlers, so a 32-ounce koozie. Now you're talking.
See, that's kind of cool. I would take that koozie. But anyone else listening, I know they're cheap to make. Stop. Don't waste your money. Don't give me a koozie. I have too many. I give them away. I throw them out. Stop with the koozies.
One thing that could work for that, I remember, not to pitch another brand here, but Foster's used to have an oil can for their oil cans.
That's the original. That's the original crowler, man. For sure.
I actually still have a couple.
All right, so what's this second beer in our flight?
So this is going to be...
the second beer is the Main Street Mosaic. So Ian can talk a little bit about that, but you can see the color and the flavor really comes from the profile that Ian made.
You can see this on the YouTube, but we'll describe it for the audio podcast. It's a good like not quite pink, but it's a good almost like a grapefruit type of color.
It's a little vibrant. This one is... I think we're on our last or second to last keg of this. I have another batch in the fermenter. The next batch is a little bit more supercharged on the fruit side. Not too much, but just the color took a little bit better and the fruit flavor took a little bit better. So what's going on here is the malt bill is a little bit more on the complex side as opposed to sesh. And believe it or not, this one, like I said, is certain things do play off each other. So if Main Street Mosaics. I'm not really hiding anything. If you call it Mosaics, obviously it's got Mosaic hops in there. Yeah. So Mosaic hop, depending on where you put them into the process, actually round out fruit really well. And there is a decent amount of hops in there too, but you can't really, it's not bitterness, it's not an IPA, it's not everything. But for a fruit beer, I don't know if you've had this before, if you ever had a fruit beer or like a sour where someone put too much hops in it and it's a no-go. You're like, okay, take it easy, don't put too much hops in this. It's just like either killed the sour or killed the fruit or whatever. But Mosaic is a very, very, very nice hop. And we do have other hops in here and other little tricks that make this round out very, very well. But it's blueberry, raspberry, and Mosaic hops is the star of the show, but it rides on a medium body, so it kind of all sticks together.
Yeah, that fruit is coming right out.
But it's not too sweet.
No, it's sweet, but it's definitely sweet, but not too sweet.
Right, it's not like a glass of fruit juice.
Right. Yeah. But and not super hoppy. It doesn't taste like an IPA at all. This is another one you can probably go through a bunch of without realizing.
And then when you carbonate it, if you raise the carbonation on it a little bit, it'll actually make the fruit and the Mosaic hops a little bit more like effervescent, where you're actually like smelling it and tasting it at the same time.
I was going to mention it seemed like a little bit more carbonation than the previous one, like a little bit of a sparkle and tingle aftertaste.
Yeah, it kind of boosts up that the hop and the fruit in there. So.
And also, so do you guys control the temperature at which you pour each beer to affect the flavor of the beer as it comes from the line?
We don't control each beer individually, but the tower itself is glycol controlled. So, the beer down the cellar and the walk-in is 35 degrees. That's normal storage for our hops or yeast or kegs. When it goes through the tower, it shocks it, to keep it stable and keep the beer cold. We like to play around with that a little bit to try to carbonation and temperature have a big role on each other. So if you change temperature around a little bit, it'll get wonky on you, or if you flip-flop it, it'll work in your favor. So temperature does play a key. Pressures play a big key. Every beer has its own regulator. It's all based on carbonation level. So you have to maintain. You have to take care of your product.
This is I'm gonna say we're 2 for 2 on the flight. This is great.
Not to downplay that Hefeweizen, because that was great too.
We'll call it 3 for 3 if we're gonna count that.
It is delicious, and the color reminds me of when you add hibiscus.
Right,
to the beer,
yeah.
It's that nice kind of rosy pink color. I really like it.
Hibiscus is nice, man. My buddy makes a really good hibiscus beer over at Manafurkin. I don't know if he has it on tap yet. He's got a hibiscus sour. That's killer.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's cool. Yeah, it's called Nice Brews.
That wasn't there, right, Walter?
No.
Okay, we were just there a few days ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna poke him here in a minute. I'm gonna send him a text. Like, hey man, did you make brews yet? But he's got the
it's on the call me, get on the show.
He's got the breast cancer awareness ribbon on there, so it's Nice Brews.
Nice. Right. Some of my favorite things. All right.
When I worked in a brewery, we had a Randall machine. So one of my favorite Randalls I ever made was actually a Belgian triple. Ran through hibiscus, lime, and dragon fruit.
Wow. That's probably killer.
It was so awesome.
Yeah, you can get tricky with Randalls. That guy, he is Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head. He's got the patent on that. He's the one who made it. It's a nifty little machine. Beer tenders hate it because they gotta take care of it.
Yeah, the cleaning process alone makes it not worth it. But the fun things that you can do with it to amplify.
You can dice up hot peppers and put them in there.
Absolutely, or cocoa nibs and coconut in a stout, and
absolutely.
Now you have a completely different beer.
Yep, it's it can get fun. It can definitely get fun. All right, what do we got? We got do number 3.
We got the number 3 slot.
So here we go.
This one looks like straight up Minute Maid orange juice. This is a cool color.
So that's
nice and
moving up an ABV on this one.
So a nice Warhorse IPA, double IPA. This is where Ian gets a little creative. He says that he likes to.
Oh, this is where he gets creative.
And I guess he could talk about it, but a more New England style IPA on the menu.
It's funny. Gary actually named a lot of the beers. This one I actually love. The name is cool. It's stuck. Your image and your name and what you name your beers, you always kind of like second guess yourself on do it. But you grow into your name, you grow into your image, you grow into your logos, you grow. It becomes what it is, regardless. And like I love it. It's a cool name. It's so this one is going to be our Warhorse. It's our double IPA, which is a New England style, so it's hazy. This one I can't tell you the amount of times I've actually brewed this. So it's a chemical reaction called biotransformation and everything. And I'm not going to get into it, but it's like a combination of about 10 to 15 different things that have to be spot on between chemistry, between the water, between the grain you use, between the hops you use. Most people think that they can make a hazy IPA out of whatever hops they use. It's not. It doesn't work like that. There's specific oil contents. It's a total nerd show when you try to make these things, and it really is. It's a chemical reaction, and so this beer, I did this at home the first time, and I was like, wow, that worked great. Let me try to tweak one thing, and it was like almost I would think would be completely unrelated to what gives it haze, and it dropped out immediately. And I tried to tweak something else, and it dropped out immediately. And so I have my own recipe that I stumbled upon on accident, basically messing around from what I know. And this beer is 2 months old, and it looks like you were saying, it looks like orange juice.
Yeah, it looks like it's fresh out of a can.
So normally when they're old, hazies normally only last about like 2 to 3 months, and the haze will drop out. The haze will eventually drop out. The other problematic thing with these beers is they're very, very susceptible to oxygen. So between fermentation on the cold side, between transferring, between kegging, I don't really like to put them in crowlers. I mean, we will make exceptions for some people, but if you ever seen a hazy IPA, when it's exposed to oxygen, it'll turn either gray or purple. So if I left this out on the counter and you come back tomorrow, that'll be purple. Like it'll almost look like the Mosaic beer. It'll be gray. It's very, very weird. It has, like I said, it has to do with all the stuff that's going on inside of there. They're not very shelf-stable beers. It's farm to table. Drink it, as fast as we make it. Drink it. Don't save it. This is not one we age. This is you don't catch people barrel aging New England style IPAs. So this is not to go on and on, but this is going to be big aroma between all the hops that are in there. Not going to go through them, but that's my little.
That's a little bit of a trade secret on this one.
there might be some listed on the. There might be a few listed on there. I'm not sure, but it's going to be big pineapple, big mango flavors in your face. You're definitely going to get the citrusy aroma. It's very, very tropical, and it's 7.5%, and it's not very caloric. And there's no lactose in it, by the way. I haven't put lactose in any of my beers yet. I'm trying to keep the diabetes down. So.
No, it was very good. It tastes like a tropical punch, and I'm very surprised by the taste. One of the better New England IPAs that I've had.
Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate that.
With like the pineapple and everything coming through, it's almost like a painkiller.
A little bit more like you want some Rasta music playing in the background.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean that's by default, but still, it would pair better. With
painkillers are amazing, dude.
Oh yeah.
What do they make that with? The Pusser's rum, that Royal Navy rum. Oh,
I forget what the rum is supposed to be, but then you put in like the pineapple juice and the coconut.
Yeah, those are awesome.
It's like, but it's they're very refreshing, especially for a very heavy drink. And that's what I'm kind of getting out of this.
Yeah, the aromas are what hit me right away. I mean, that's what I love about this beer.
The only thing that is a little, like I said, problematic about these beers, besides the shelf stability and all that jazz, if you package it correctly, it could stay a little bit. But moving on, so for those of you who don't understand the difference between an East Coast style or a West Coast style IPA, the West Coast styles normally lean towards a higher IBU rating, clean finishing, more like crystal clear, like Sierra Nevada, stuff like that. We have our Patriot on tap. That is our West Coast-ish, what you would consider a West Coast style IPA.
I think the boys dabbled in the Patriot before the podcast.
We did, and it's definitely not bitterness like in your face. It's super clean, easy to drink, but definitely you get the full flavor of the hops, and you get that like pininess, pitchiness on the back end that you want out of West Coast.
For sure. Now this one, so these ones we actually trick them out a little bit so you don't carry the IBUs as much, so it won't carry the bitterness, but the hop load that's in it is ungodly. The amount of hops that go into a New England style IPA almost breaks the bank. So that's why they come in 10 ounces. That's why it might be a little bit pricey. So, but it's a certain number of pounds that goes in there to make that happen, all in different times. But it's a lot, man. It's up there, man. The cost of the hops is probably almost as much as the grain and everything that goes.
It definitely seems
and the yeast and everything.
Oh,
it's
definitely worth it. And this is really great. I'm not a huge IPA guy. I just never liked just how, especially a couple years ago when everyone was kind of getting on the IPA rush and everyone was trying to get as much
dankiness and the hops,
making it as bitter as possible and that kind of punch you in the face thing, and it turned me off from IPAs. But I'm kind of seeing that trend reverse a little bit, and they're trying to make them as drinkable as possible now. And this is really good on the other end of that.
Yeah, so let's get into that last beer because it's one of my favorites on the menu.
So let me finish this IPA here. Oh, that is good. Good job.
All right, so what is this fourth beer on the flight?
So beer number 4 is our Vanilla Porter, Headquarter Vanilla Porter.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah, so we have that on regular tap and nitro as well.
Cheers.
Slancha.
Well, this is a nitro pour, wasn't it?
Yep.
That was nice.
Yeah, the nitro is definitely. I love the texture of a good nitro pour.
Not only that, but that's been sitting for a minute too since we've been on the podcast, and it still has a little.
We're 55 minutes in. We poured this about 20 minutes before that, so this is.
It's still holding a good taste.
This is a nice, hour plus settling.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is the temperature that I prefer. Darker beers, porters, stouts.
Definitely,
so this is probably the ideal temperature for me. But even though it's sat for a little bit, it still has a lot of that creaminess that you get from the nitro.
Yeah, for sure. We bounce around between CO2 and nitro. Like I said, we're
for both our porter and stout. We have them on both.
Yeah, I like to treat my nitro beers a little bit differently from my CO2 beers. This one. Stouts and porters aren't really carbonated that high to begin with, but I put the ones on nitro, even though they're carbonated a little bit. So they're kind of a pain in the ass to pour, but it's fun to give the customers that option, whether you want CO2 or nitro. Even though we do get a little bit of waste out of it because it's a little heady because it's slightly carbonated to begin with before it went on nitro.
But it goes back to the experience, right? I mean, especially people that don't know beer, they see that nitro pour. And they love it.
Oh, yeah.
There's something very satisfying about a nitro cascade.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
Again, it gives those people the experience that we want and wanting to come back.
And that nitro texture mixed with the vanilla in here really creates not only in the physical texture but in the taste. It really makes a very creamy finish on it.
So I get a lot of questions. A lot, man, from people like, what's the difference between stouts and porters? If you go into like BJCP categories, even with competitions, there's not really that much of a difference. I mean, we all know what we kind of consider stouts and porters, but category-wise, you can call a porter a stout and a stout a porter. Are they different things? Yes, to some people. Maybe to some people, no. For me, I like my porters black but clear, almost like clear. Like they're black, but you're catching a little bit of light through the glass, where it has a little bit of translucent through the blackness. Light in body, you want a little bit lighter on the ABV. My stouts, I like them a little bit chewier. You want a little bit more darker of a punch, and I like the high ABV stouts, especially like when we go into the bourbon barrel program. We're going to start barrel aging those, and those are fun. That's my winter beer, man, is a barrel-aged stout. But this porter, I'm telling you, man, this porter, that was one of, like I said, I've made
one
that
of my
before.
favorites, yeah.
It's a good beer.
It is.
There really is nothing better than like a nice Russian Imperial bourbon barrel aged.
Oh, man.
But like
take you a fork and a knife and a half hour to get through it.
I
like my beers to come with a nap after that. That's what I want.
Any kind of porter, whether it be Baltic or just a nice regular, the body of it, like a little bit thinner.
Yes.
And I think you can actually taste the grain bill a little more
for sure
in the porter.
there's not a lot of things in your way, man. It's very, even though it's dark, it's like the common misconception.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's misleading to consumers, right? They see dark beer.
They see dark and they think
I can't drink dark beer.
They think you're putting like ground up tires or motor oil in there, and I was like, it's not. It's just it's toasted grain that gives it the color, and that's basically all we're doing is putting enough toasted grain in there to give it a little bit of that roastiness, a little bit of that color, and the malt bill, and stouts and porters on a lighter category are hopped very, very light. Depending, like, unless you're doing like a Russian Imperial, and then like that's everything in the kitchen sink in there. But that's what you want to taste. You want to taste a little bit of the grain, a little bit of the roastiness. There might be some slight coffee, slight chocolate tones in there, but and like some vanilla. And those are like straight, vanilla beans that are split, chopped up, all that jazz that went through fermentation. So it's a fun beer to make, and it's enjoyable. It doesn't, that's every time I make this beer, it's never turned out bad. It never turned out bad as far as, hey, this is all we have. Like, I'll drink it. It's not like it's never like you're not really going to be in the mood for it. You could always drink that beer, whether it be spring, summer, all that jazz, or winter. I
love the coffee malts and like the midnight malts. Like, I will eat them straight out of the bag.
That's rough, bro. You got a problem.
I know. I know.
Yeah, they're fun, man. We have a nice little selection of roasted malts that we put in here. Like I said, the porters are a little bit more simplistic. Our stouts are a little bit more complex. That's where you just want like an overload between everything, between the grain, the roastiness, the alcohol. You just want it. People that drink stouts, man, they want it all. They want either like chocolate, peanut butter, bourbon barrel. They just want like flavor overload, dessert.
Yes, I do want a bourbon barrel bacon chocolate stout.
Bourbon barrel bacon oyster stout. Wow. Yeah, you're going hard on that one.
You had me in the first half.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, this is a great flight. This is a good wide selection. I recommend all of these. There's not a bad beer in here. Great job.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any parting thoughts? Anything we missed? Anything that you guys think we really, really, really need to tell people?
Get more beer.
Done.
Yeah, come down. We put a lot of time, a lot of effort into, I think, making a place that people will really enjoy.
And especially for a place that's as new as you are, I'm encouraging everyone to come down here and just support not only a new brewery, a new business in downtown Toms River, but downtown Toms River as a whole. So much history here. I've been hanging out here since Java Joint was a thing. Exactly. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. Anything you guys want to add? Last chance. Very cool. I want to thank Gary and Ian over at Battle River Brewing in Toms River.
Thank you guys for having us.
We appreciate it. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for teaching us so much too. This is a very educational episode.
Yeah, sorry for nerding out.
Do never apologize for that. Not to me, not to no one. Right?
And especially not to Walter.
Yes. This has been episode 1 of Flight in a Pint. Guys, thanks for making it a great one. I'm looking forward to continuing doing this. Until next time, my name is Jason Portizo.
I'm Nathan Dickinson.
I'm Walter Wilson.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
This has been a JTP Audio podcast. Thanks for listening.